So, a very good morning to all the members connected with us. Today is the second day of induction training program for newly recruited faculty members. Yesterday, we have covered two important aspects related to classroom management practices. The very first one was on effective communication skill, where Dr. Sudhiti Jindal uh, discussed about the four basic skills of communication, along with the context of communication in offline as well as in online environment. And in the second session, Dr. Rama Chabra ma'am deliberate upon important aspect of learning and different learning styles that may be available in our classroom. Today, we will start with our session with the title Redefining Learning Spaces or the Changing Learning Spaces. So, since we know in the last session also yesterday, Dr. Rama Chabra ma'am said that in today's environment, the classrooms are changing at a very fast rate. It is not only the changing characteristics of the learners who are available with us in our classes, but at the same time, the demand of the curriculum, the demand of education policies, and at the same time, the kind of infrastructure and technology integration in teaching learning process. So we are not no longer are confined only to the physical classrooms where all the students sit together and listen to the faculty, and teacher is only the source provider of the information. Today, when I talk about a classroom or a learning space may be the network facility that is available with me, by the use of which it is possible for me to go through in detail number of websites. I can also search information that is available in my nation and even from the other foreign universities also. Students are making their collaborative groups, putting effort in teaching learning process and performing many activities with and without the help of the faculty. It means our classrooms are no longer the physical classroom, any space, any environment where the student can go through the information, the student can learn new concepts, new philosophy related to their branch of specialization. That area, that learning space is a new definition of a classroom. So, keeping this in view, we are going to cover the important aspect of the changing learning spaces. So when it comes to the change of the learning spaces, it is being said that it is not only the teacher who is going to provide me the information, but yes, with the help of the teacher, it is possible for me to use that information for my teaching learning activities. So first we talk about the new generation students. So when we said the new generation student, why the learning spaces are changing at a very fast rate, because we have a different kind of student population. As per NEP 2020, when in that policy, it is clearly mentioned that from the primary education up to the higher education, there is a revamping of teaching learning activities by integration of technology, by developing lifelong learning skills among student population, and considering student as an active agent of classroom practices. It means the student demands are changing a lot. So when we said the integration of technology, why it is compulsory for a teacher to integrate technology in classroom, because nowadays students are using digital media a lot. So when I said digital media a lot, it is not only involving the tools and equipment. So it is not only the smartphone, mobiles, laptops, iPads, or other media related tools available with the student easily, but at the same time, on those media devices, it is possible for the student to connect socially at large. So when I said to connect socially at large, my students are very active on Facebook, they are very active on Instagram, they are using Twitter, they are using a Telegram group, they are using WhatsApp group to interact with each other. So when they are sharing information just with a click of mouse, it is possible for my student to use these platforms for their teaching learning activities also. So as a teacher, when I'm creating a Telegram group or a WhatsApp group to disseminate important information, it is possible for my student to have that information while sitting in their own personal spaces. So student need not say, for example, there is a circular that I want to distribute among my class student, or there is an important assignment related to an graded assignment. So it is not compulsory for my student to come to the laboratory or come to the classroom, check the notice board, and only then the student is able to get that information. If I'm able to create a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group for my class student, on that group, if I'm passing on any information to my students are able to read that information in their own personal time and use that information to complete the activity that is being assigned to them. So this is how we can fulfill the demand of this particular generation student. They are connected with social media, that is their behavior. How as a teacher I am integrating those platforms in my teaching learning activity, this is my responsibility. When I'm designing a lesson plan or courses for my student, at that time I need to consider the demand of the student, that they want to connect digitally with each other also, so that can be integrated in various teaching learning activities. Second is developing learning resources. So nowadays, many of the students, not in all the institutions, but in many of the institutions, students are developing packages, students are developing learning material and resources. So they are not only collecting information, but at the same time, they are creating information. If you scroll on YouTube, simply scroll on YouTube and try to identify that what are the different channels that are being run, designed by student population only, you are able to get many videos on that particular platform. Not in higher education, but the student from the secondary education also, the student from the class of even 8th or 10th standard, they are preparing the course content, they are recording their videos, creating their own channels and uploading that information on that particular platform. So it means in the time to come, students are not here just to collect information. Student may come to the faculty to validate the information, and they are creating those kind of resources not only for their own uses but for the student population at large. So in the time to come, most of the students will be able to design and develop resources, and teacher will be there to validate the information that is designed by the student individually. They are able to navigate information. So when I said they are able to navigate information, say for example, while sitting at NITTTR Chandigarh, if any of my student, say a student from electronics and communication engineering branch, if that particular student have information related to XYZ software, and maybe another university student want to have information about that particular software, that student want to run any program on that software, in that particular case, though, these students can connect together and these students can pass information to each other. So information is flowing, students are acting as a freelancer, they are helping each other not only for the development of the content, but they are also helping each other for understanding information related to their subject matter. So when we said new generation student, this is their demand. They want to connect with technology. They want to act as an active agent in the process of teaching learning. But my question to all of you is, do you think that it is possible for all the students to develop themselves up to this extent? Yes, any member from the group? I think there are only two members connected. Yes, do you think it is possible for all the students to develop themselves up to this particular extent? Yes, Rohit sir, do you want to add something to it? So when it comes to the student population in our technical education system, there are diversity of students available, And there are diversity of institutions available also. So there may be some institution where faculty members are available but technological resources are not available. So it is the teacher who is going to find out that what kind of infrastructure resources are available with us and how can we fulfill the demand of this particular generation student by identifying different platforms that may be beneficial for that kind of a student population. But yes, for to fulfill the demand of this particular generation, the faculty members need to put a little extra effort for such kind of activities. Another important thing that we need to understand that in new generation students, say a case study from a classroom, say the characteristics of the next generation student mesh very closely with IT and its increasing mobility. Its 24 into 7 availability and its increasing value as a communication tool. So next generation students are social, team oriented, comfortable with multitasking, and generally positive in their outlook and have a hands on let's build it approach, all encouraged by IT resources at their disposal. So, that generation students have embraced IT, using it in ways both intended and unforeseen by programmers. Their rapid and enthusiastic adoption of IT has in turn influenced its development, particularly with respect to the web based resources. So, this particular paragraph I have taken from the research paper where they are able to identify the different characteristics or demands of the new generation student, that is Generation Z. And in many of the research paper, it is the single research paper that I'm displaying for all of you. In many of the research paper, it is clearly written that in today's population, when we talk about student generation, they are competitive, but at the same time, they are collaborating with each other. So they are social, they want to connect with each other, they want to work in team based or group based activity, they are able to perform multitasking or multiple number of activities at a similar time. So my student, when he or she is working on a laptop on xyz assignment, that student is able to see the review of other websites also at the same time. So they are not disturbing with the overflowing of the content that is available in their digital devices, but at the same time when they are working on an xyz activity, they are able to go through the number of websites simultaneously to collect information and to collect resources. They are positive in their outlook, so they are not only sharing the resources with each other, but as a student, when we give them activities in groups and teams, they are able to help each other to perform certain activities. Another example is, you can also take an example from your institute also. When the students are working in laboratory practices, when they are performing some sort of a practical activity in laboratory environment, they are interacting with each other and at the same time they are able to complete that activity on time as assigned by the teacher. Another example is when we assigning a major project or a minor project to our student, and we provide flexibility to the student to complete the project on time. This is the group of the student that is defined by the department, but the group is responsible for all the project activity, and students are able to complete that project on time by identifying the needs or by implementing all the important aspects of that particular project. So students nowadays are competing, but at the same time they are having let's build it approach in each other, and they are helping for the development of different kind of resources. So in nutshell, when we talk about new generation student, these students want to connect with the social media. These students just not only collecting information, but at the same time they are able to create information by using number of websites or number of information that is available with them. They are able to adapt the space to their needs. So as per their requirement, they are able to identify the resources and they are able to share the resources. Next generation student always carry technology. To the smaller extent, every student of your class may be having mobile phone in his or her pocket when he or she entered in a class. So they always carry technology with themselves. They personalize that information. So nowadays, when the student, say in a physical classroom, when the student is delivering an information, and say for example the student is not in the mind or not in the mood to listen to or attend to that lecture, so nowadays students start clicking the pictures of the blackboard, students start recording information that is delivered by the teacher in a class. So they personalize the kind of environment they want to create for themselves. So whenever they need information, they can go to that particular recording and listen to that information. They are not making notes of the information provided by the teacher, they are simply clicking photographs, they are creating a PDF, they are scanning the notes or the material from the books and transferring that information to each other. So this particular generation student also able to personalize the environment of learning for themselves as per their demand. The second important aspect that we need to take in care of as far as our changing learning spaces are concerned, that is trend in education. So there are two major trends that is happening nowadays. First one is whenever, wherever they want. So when the government of India started initiating the development of different MOOC courses on different platforms. So we have SWAYAM platform, we have NITTTR courses, we have UGC approved courses, we have AICT approved courses available. There are many private institutions or organizations also like Khan Academy, EDU, Coursera. So they are developing content for the student. So for every subject, the teacher and the student is able to find out a course available on these different platforms. So it is not only that the student is going to get information from 9 to 5 schedule. If the student register and find out these kind of courses whenever, wherever they want, they can collect information by registering and undergoing those MOOC programs. There are diverse places of learning. Say for example, if I registered for a MOOC program, this particular classroom can be my learning space, my office can be my learning space, the park outside my home can be my learning place, even the cafeteria available at institute can be my learning space. So it is not only the confined classroom where I'm going to have all kind of information. Any place where a digital equipment is available with me with the internet facility, I can use that area as a learning space for me. So the dimension of learning spaces change now. With the help of these MOOC courses, there is a flexibility in learning. And when the authority gives us the permission to earn different credits by the use of these MOOC courses, in that particular case, the teacher, the student available at your university can enroll for a different course in some another university and earn credit for their formal education system. So learning spaces are not confined to the institute or to the university they get enrolled into. The student, as per their demand and as per their interest, can register for of online available courses to them. So their learning spaces are diverse by nature. So it is not only the departmental faculty that is dealing with the student, but at the same time, the students can also interact with the different faculty members of other university and earn the credit for their branch of specialization. So in this particular slide, I'm just providing you an overview that as per the characteristics or the traits of the next generation student, what are their demands. So we said students have an approach of let's build it, and they are very collaborative by nature. They are competing with each other, but at the same time, they are supporting and cooperating for the different activities. So what kind of learning space is required? So students need to work in a group. So small group workspaces are required. So these are some of the suggestions in terms of technology integration. So IM chat facility, virtual whiteboard, screen sharing facilities need to be provided to the student when they are working in group online. Another major characteristic of next generation students is they are goal and achievement oriented. If you give something to learn to the student, or any activity to perform, the student will surely ask you nowadays that why I need to go through this information, and is this particular activities compulsory for me to submit. So in that particular case, the teacher need to have a continuous assessment of the student performance. So when we said continuous assessment, it is a formative kind of assessment that we are taking care of at institute level. So teachers need to define different learning goals for the student population. So when I said the information is available in abundance, but my student is not matured enough to find out that which information is essential as per his or her own level. So when I'm defining the learning outcomes, I'm defining the web resources for my student to go through. In that particular case, whatever activity I'm designing or giving them for formative assessment purposes, I need to define learning outcome for that particular activity also. So when this kind of activity is provided to the student must have connection with the faculty so that they can clarify their doubt. There must be an environment of consultation that need to be created by the teacher. So for example, you design some unique assignment for your student where the student need to go through internet resources. In that particular case, maybe that particular assignment for the very first time the teacher is giving to the group of the student or the team of the student so that they can consult with each other and spend time that is essential for the submission of that particular activity and assignment. Otherwise, one group of student will take 6 long hours to complete that assignment, and the second group student may complete that particular activity in 1 hour only. So consultation is required, and faculty is also need to be available if the students are not matured enough initially for the completion of such kind of an activity. So there are online formative quizzes, and teacher can also demand for the development of e-portfolio at the part of the student. Another is multitasking. So when we said the students perform multiple activities, example may be a project work or a practical work, the student need to be active all the time. So an active environment need to be created by the teacher, and there must be a space for the use of variety of tools. So that is the requirement of the learning environment. Students are experimental and they want to commit error to learn something new. So they want to perform something before assimilating that information in their mind. So there must be variety of learning activities that need to designed by the teacher, and there must be practice. Whatever they have covered in their theory classes, that practice need to be there in the laboratory classes. So when the teacher is designing such kind of classes for the student, basically the theoretical concept covered to the student, along with that the practical exposure need to be given to the students. So when they are doing application part of the theory they have learned in their classrooms, they are able to get information and able to use that learning later on in their life. Heavy reliance on the network access, so multiple learning resources need to be there. So it is not only the reference or the print material that the teacher is providing and referring to the student, but along with it the teacher need to identify e-resources also so that the student can have more advanced information as per the demand of the curriculum. So when I said as per the demand of the curriculum, and when as a teacher I'm providing e-resources or different learning pathways to my student, first at departmental level we need to have a proper mapping of that information. Say for example, the subject of research methodology, the subject of research methodology is essential for the students in diploma also when they are in the step formation of identification of a research problem or a project problem. So somewhat information need to be with the student that how they are able to identify a problem in the given field of specialization. In the bachelor levels also, when they are performing certain project based activity, they need to know what kind of problems are researchable and what are the problems that are not non researchable by nature. So somewhat information is required for this particular student population also. When they are in their masters and doctorate level program, at that time also they need to have that kind of information. So IT infrastructure that fully support the learning space function. So when my BTech students are working for a project based activity in their laboratory, there must be internet facility available with them 24 into 7, so that they can access to the information, they can have access to that information, and at the same time they are able to generate idea by going through that information. So it is not that the master's level or PhD level student need to go for the search of different papers or different project. When the students are working for their practical and project work also, some sort of exposure need to be there for the student, so that they can advance their information. So when we are analyzing the curriculum of the given subject, at that time we need to identify that what kind of infrastructure resources in terms of technology need to be there to give practical exposure to our technical population. They are pragmatic and inductive, and they encourage discovery. It means as a teacher, my classrooms must be full of the question that started with why and how. If I'm asking define, discuss, differentiate, explain, my students are not able to have inquiry kind of learning skill. So as a teacher, we need to encourage the discovery by creating a classroom that are full of why and how. And at the same time, for the technical population, there must be availability of labs, equipment, and access to the primary resources from there, where they can independently find out answers of the few questions. Ethically diverse engagement of preconception, accessible facilities need to be there, and online resources also need to be there. So I have seen many of the students when they are preparing their PowerPoint presentation, not only the student but also the faculty members, when they are preparing their PowerPoint presentation, without checking the ethical aspects of content, information, or when they are taking pictures or images from the different website, they are not following the IT guidelines that need to be there, followed by all the academicians. So assess facilities are available, online resources are available, but how we are using those resources, that kind of information also need to be flowing in a classroom environment. Visual, most of the learner nowadays demand visual kind of presentation. So importance of culture and group aspects of the learner need to be considered. They are sharing the screens, either projectors or LCD, that is available for the printing. So these kind of media editing or recording tools need to be available, maybe not in all the classes, but few classes in the institute or in the department need to develop in such a way where the student can have all kind of facilities available. They are compelling and challenging each other by creating the work group facilitation activities and access to the different expert. It is possible for us to provide or fulfill the needs of all the students. So this is as per the demands of the students available. In that particular manner, we can identify the characteristics available in our student population, and likewise we can design few of the classes where we can fully engage the students in the process of learning. So when it comes to the, so these were the characteristics of new generation student. Now come to the learning part. So learning is the process of acquiring and integrating through a systemized process of instruction and organized experiences that are varying from knowledge, skill, and understanding that the learner may use and apply in a later situation and under conditions that are different from those of the instruction. As I was earlier discussing, that it is not only the remembering or the lower level of understanding where the teacher need to put extra effort on, but at the same time the experiential kind of learning environment need to be created at institute level. So when the information is available in abundance, the teacher need not to spoon feed information, need not to reproduce that information again and again. Teacher need to map information with the subject curriculum, and as per the mapping of the information, the teacher need to design various activities where the student can put in their effort to perform those activities in the presence of the faculty. And teacher is always there, the faculty is always there to provide corrective measures so that the student are able to understand that content fully. They are able to apply that content in a given situation at institute level, maybe in a laboratory environment, and later on the student is confident enough in the workforce to use their learning as per the situation demand. So in today's, when the students are equipped with the technological resources, they have information about all kind of IT resources. Rather than spoon feeding information, use that information for the development of higher order thinking skills among student population. So when it comes to the various learning theories, there are two major factors that we need to consider. One is the constructive approach of learning, and another is the social constructive approach of learning. So this theory, I'm not going into the detail of this particular concept, but this theory demands that students are able to develop their knowledge when it is actively constructed. As long as there were people asking each other questions, we have had constructivist classrooms. Constructivism, the study of learning, is about how we all make sense of our world that really has not changed. It means the classes must be full of questions. So teacher not just passing information from his or her notes to the notes of the student, but at the same time the teacher is creating an environment where number of ideas are generating. Students are validating those ideas and using those ideas for the development of the knowledge. So this particular learning aspect demand the classes must be full of activities. Not all the classes can be full of activities. Initially, we need to develop basic understanding or fundamentals of that particular subject among student population. Once that basic information or fundamentals related to that particular subject is developed among student population, only then it is possible for us to convert our theoretical classes in full of constructivist classrooms by asking and designing number of questions to the student. So another important aspect, so till now we have covered three different aspects. The very first aspect is how the learning spaces are changing. This is as per the characteristics of the student population. As the characteristics of the student population changes, our learning environment also need to be modified or revamped as per their demand. The second major aspect that we have covered as far as learning spaces are concerned, that is the kind of environment that is being created by the teacher. So when I said the kind of environment that is being created by the teacher is the classes that is full of activities, that is full of information. The third aspect that we have covered is the learning aspect. Students nowadays want to work in teams and work in group. As a subject expert, how it is possible for me to develop or create such kind of environment for my student. So these are the three different aspects that we need to consider when we are thinking about a change in learning spaces as far as this particular population is concerned. So in the next part of this particular population, we need to consider that as a teacher, if we want to create such kind of student population, such kind of a learning spaces, what we need to have. So the very first requirement is the development of learning communities. If the student want to work in team, if the student want to work in group, how they can come together to work in this particular kind of environment. If it is an offline class, in an offline class, it is very easy for the teacher to divide activity into number of groups or into number of teams. But if it is an online class, the teacher need to find out the ways by the use of which he or she can develop such kind of learning communities. So when it comes to the development of learning community, there are two important questions that we need to ask. The very first one is, what social engagement and processes provide the proper context of learning? So as a teacher, I need to think upon that whether my students while sitting into cafeteria discuss about the content information. So what kind of activity I need to give to my student. When students are working for an innovative project or for an innovative activity, maybe they can discuss about that information while sitting in the green lush lawn of my institute. So that kind of activity need to be think of by the teacher, maybe in a semester one or two activities where while sitting in the social engagement, student can be mindful for the information or for the activity that is given by the teacher. What form of co-participation might be required when engaging the learners in these forms of learning? So in the last session yesterday, we have covered that there are variety of learners available. So maybe one of my student is a visual learner and another student is a kinesthetic learner. So can I club these two students together for the completion of a practical activity? One student is very good when it comes to the hands-on activity, and another student is very good when it comes to collating information and presenting information in a visual form. So I need to think upon that depending upon the characteristics available, how I can design and distribute activities among student population. So what kind of learning communities we can create at institute level? So there may be three different types of learning community. First, what we mean by learning community means the community that focus on learning together, sharing and developing resources. Say for example, as a faculty for my professional development growth, if I want to undergo some of the MOOC courses or some of the training programs, I can connect with the other faculty of some other university and we together can go for those courses by helping each other. So if the content is not clear to me, I can ask to that particular faculty. If the content is not clear to that particular faculty, we can interact with each other and develop a common kind of understanding. So what I have developed, I generate or I create my own community as per the demand of the environment. So any community that focus on learning together, sharing and developing resources, that community is considered as learning community. So earlier there was in a word work environment, it is said competition. Nowadays the term that is being used is competition and collaboration. You cannot compete each other without collaborating with each other. So when we are developing interpersonal relationship in a workflow environment also, and in a classroom, when students are developing relationship, those relationship must be meaningful, helping each other for the creation of learning environment. So mainly there can be three different kind of communities that we are able to develop or will be able to develop for our student population. The very first one is the communities of practice, focus on developing professional practices. So for the development of psychomotor skills, maybe group of the student or team of the students work together and focus on the development of their professional practices. Say when the students are preparing for job placements, when the students are preparing for any job interview, they are helping each other. Community of inquiry, focus on inquiring about an issue or area. So if for my BTech level student, I said you need to identify a project related problem from your surrounding environment It may be industry, it may be any social problem that you think is related to your branch of specialization. And for that particular problem, you need to conduct a survey. And after conducting a survey, come up with the problem that in the locality or in your surrounding area, what are the different problems that as a student you can solve. So that can be the one example of community of inquiry. Knowledge community, focusing on developing the theoretical base of the knowledge. So it can be the library, when the group of the students working together in a library, when the group of the students are working on internet for the collection of information or the collection of the literature. So that is a knowledge based community that we are trying to develop by giving different activities to the student. So now come to the conclusion that what does the term learning space mean? Why not the classroom instead? As recently, again, this particular paragraph I have taken from the research paper only. As recently as a decade ago, classrooms were the primary locus for learning in higher education. Other spaces included the library, the faculty office for individual mentoring, and perhaps the cafe in the time. But classrooms were by far the single most important space for learning. So earlier, when we said a learning space, the term physical classroom comes to our mind. But nowadays, when we said learning, it may be that physical classroom only, but the classroom may have different new dimension. So the new lecture hall at institute may have the smart board facility available, the students with the laptop and mobiles at hand, and even the faculty members are carrying their mobile phones in a classroom environment. Faculty recording the voice and upload it on the website, and at the same time, the faculty members giving permission to the student to record the information delivered for them and pass on that information as and when required, or any student whosoever is not available in the class. Notes written on the board given to the student as a printout. So in that new lecture hall, in the time to come, there may be facility available with all of you, that the podium where you can display information, you can record the notes also, and at the same time you can take printout just by giving a command and give that notes to the student population. So in that confined classroom, it is not only the blackboard or the whiteboard facility available, but it is possible for the teacher to integrate the technology not only up to the lower extent, but even up to the advanced level to give experiential kind of learning for the student population. So this help us to create more resources. Another case study that I have selected from the literature only, she goes to the podium computer and click on the few links, and soon a video conferencing session is displayed on the right hand screen. She has arranged to have a colleague of hers drop in on the class to discuss a point that is in the colleague's particular area of expertise. The class has a conversation with an expert who is at large research institute more than 500 miles away. Students listen to the expert comment and are able to pose questions using one of the three cordless microphones available to the class. On the left-hand screen, the visiting professor shows some images and charts that help explain the concept under the discussion. So this may be our future classrooms in all the institute, where it is not only the single faculty or the individual faculty who is delivering information to the student, but that faculty have power and authority to connect any expert from that field of specialization. So student has more advanced experiences in such kind of a classroom rather than in a confined physical classroom. Another example of the collaborative new learning spaces using laptops and other network devices, students and faculty are increasingly able to carry their entire working environment with them. To capitalize on this, the campus organization must work collaboratively to create a more integrated work environment for the students and faculty One that better serves the mobile net generation student as well as a faculty faced with initial influx of these students into their ranks. So that kind of collaborative environment need to be created at a institute level. So when we set e-community specifically with the focus on a digital learning environment, when we set the e-learning community, the very first thing that we need to know is know about our learners. There must be some rule policies that need to be designed at institute level. So when we are offering online classes to our student or when we are integrating technology, it is not just the sake of integration of technology. Say there may be a subject of mathematics which do not require any integration of technology. That class can be well equipped, well designed just by designing various practice session. There may be class of human resource management that need a case study method, role play method or other instructional strategies to be used. But when it is a class in an online fashion, how the teacher is going to give the case study or content information to the student, and what are the different rules the student population need to follow when they are attending the classes online, and force them to follow those rules and practices. Say, for example, in this particular short term course, if we fix a rule that every participant need to switch on their videos and unmute themselves whenever the expert is calling or the faculty whosoever is engaging the session is calling, and you have to follow this particular rule to have certification of the course. It means we have defined a rule for our online classes that is considered as netiquette rule, and we enforce you to follow this rule, otherwise no certification will be provided. So for a student population who are not matured enough, some of the rules, policies or disciplinary actions need to be designed at institute level and convey it in a written to the student population to follow. Select an appropriate package. Do not just buying resources just for the sake of showing those resources. As per the demand of the curriculum or as per the demand of the subject and comfort of the faculty, try to find out the appropriate packages. Good interpersonal relationship plays an important role in this particular generation. So when I said good interpersonal relationship, we as a teacher and students of our class must be ready to help each other for the development. Create a learning space for the students that fulfill their variety of needs. So one time I'm giving a written assignment, another time I'm asking my class student to prepare a PowerPoint presentation, third time I asking my class student to have a survey a related activity, fourth time I'm giving a mini project to my students to complete upon instead of giving written assignment to them. So when diversity of activities given to the student, it may be possible that I am able to fulfill the needs of all the students within the semester. Shareable online learning content need to be given to the student. No need to reproduce the content again and again. The content is already available in abundance. Try to map that content and share that information with the student. There must be approach of let them work. So as far as possible, give group based and team based activity to the student so that they can share information with each other. Information is available, but as and when required, the teacher can correct that information and supplement that information to fulfill the demands of the subject. So these are few of the references that I have used for preparing this PowerPoint presentation. Before I end up, I want to have one another case study discussion in this particular program. So when we said active learning spaces, before I go into the detail of this particular case study, any of you, if you have any question, you are requested to kindly unmute and ask, or you want to share your experience related to the changing learning spaces, that experience is also welcome to share. Yes, over to you, participants. Yes, any member, if you have any question. So at the end, I want to show you some of the learning spaces that is created worldwide for cooperative and collaborative kind of a learning environment. So when we said active learning, participative learning, cooperative learning, the kind of learning community that we are able to create for our student. So these are few of the examples. So this is from the ALS Lecture Theatre. So this kind of the infrastructure facility provided to the student, the design, simplicity and flexibility have proved extremely popular with the users. So this kind of a desk arrangement is extremely popular and very fruitful for the user. So this particular sitting arrangement avoid the need for breakout space and provide an excellent environment for informal kind of learning. So when we are creating a discussion based or group based discussion for our students, so this kind of infrastructure is extremely popular among student population. This reduces the total space requirement for teaching and collaborative active social learning while providing an asset that is likely to be in constant use. So they are using this is not only from the point of view of the learning scenario, but at the same time the design angle of the classroom is also very essential to use infrastructure in a full manner. Another example of the active learning classroom is space at NCSU USA University. It improved problem solving and conceptual understanding, and it also generate more positive attitude and failure rate are drastically reduced, especially for women and members of the minority group. At risk student also do better. Now see the arrangement that is created in this particular lecture hall. The podium or this particular table is provided to the faculty to have or observe all the group student, and at the same time the students may sit in the round table around the round table with the internet facility or the laptop facility available with them to sharing of different resources. Another example of these kind of classrooms are active learning classroom at Minnesota University. So in Minnesota University, that kind in this kind of a sitting arrangement, the students, this is the actual picture of the classroom where students are working on an activity, discussing and sharing information with each other. And few of the students are also making notes out of that particular activity. So these kind of learning environment can be created at institute level. And students said that I love this space. It makes me feel appreciated as a student and I feel intellectually invigorated when I work and learn in it. So students also have a demand for such kind of a learning environment. Another is innovation at Winona State University. I am in my 20 years as a teacher, this is the biggest change I have seen. I will never teach the same way again. Now we have an environment where students and teachers can actively work together to solve problems and master the curriculum. The students are much more engaged in this kind of a learning space. The classroom is booked 100% of the time by the people who want to use it because of what it enables. So in this kind of a arrangement, the presentation facility also provided to the group of the student, and even the screen sharing facility from one group to another group is also provided. So when the students are working in a group, they can have information from the another group member also and create many of the ideas. University of Tokyo, the same kind of a sitting arrangement is being created. So it's a group based or team based activity classroom that is being created in this active learning studio that is created at University of Tokyo. So these are few of the examples of the learning spaces that over the different universities they are able to create. So this is all from my side. Before I give an activity to all of you for this particular class today. If you have any question related to this particular concept, you are requested to kindly unmute and ask. After that, I will assign one activity to all of you.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am, we agree that the types of infrastructure you show is very useful in open learning. But in our circumstances, we quite often see that so much on of openness sometimes defocus a student. And
So
yes,
when
of
you
course,
said
it is a part of
openness, what
teacher,
kind of openness?
like screen sharing,
Okay.
uh, uh, informal sitting. So, in fact, we find that students themselves are already very informal, even at the places where they should be formal, like a classroom, or they are very e-social people nowadays. So, we, in fact, ask them to be formal. They are already very informal. We do not need to turn them in an informal way. They are already in a very informal.
I understand the problem, sir. So, sir, when we were discussing this particular concept in the last slide, I think we have covered that when I think my PowerPoint presentation is not showing. Give me a minute. So as far as the use of the technology, it is not only new for the faculty population. So we are not professionally trained as a faculty. If we take example of ourselves, we are not professionally trained for the uses of technology. As the time proceed, we become habitual of the uses of technology and we are learning by ourselves. No professional, no such professional training is provided to us. In the last slide, I already discussed that when it comes to the use of technology or infrastructure related to these kind of an aspect, the rule, policies, disciplinary actions, and measure first need to define by the department. If your students are informal while screen sharing or when they're attending online classes, using the chat box, using inappropriate means of transferring information or chatting with each other, there must be few rules, disciplinary measures that need to be designed by the department. So in this particular slide, I have mentioned, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
So when it comes to the development of the e-community, these are the few things that we need to focus. So the know your learner. So as per you, sir, you said your students are informally connecting with each other when they are sharing the screen or using different online resources. So you know for this particular student population, there must be some sort of disciplinary measures that need to be taken care of. That is why the second point, while developing the e-community, we as a faculty need to focus is the netiquette rules. So what kind of rules need to be there? Say if the student is using the chat box and he or she is not using the chat box in an online class for instructional purposes, the teacher must have the authority to expel the student from the class. The teacher must have the authority to suspend the student for the specific subject class. So such kind of disciplinary measures first need to design that departmental level. Only then these kind of facilities need to be provided to the student. Say when you set the Wi-Fi password or resources provided to all the student, so it is the responsibility of the server in charge that what kind of facilities we are providing on our portal the student can have information to. So if the students are using their personal mobiles or personal laptop or internet facility, what kind of restriction we can put to our student population so that while working with us in the institute, the student are using those resources just for the instructional purposes. So at present, we all are using all our own resources by what way we want. But if we want to integrate it fully at institute level, some sort of disciplinary policies or actions need to be designed. So these rules need to be designed at institute level. So any another member, if you have any question? So can I assign one activity to all of you, maybe for 5 or 10 minutes? We have approximately 5 minutes left with us. So maybe in the next class we will discuss upon this particular activity. So up to 11:30 you can find out, note down the changes in your classroom student. So maybe from the past 5 years, what are the changes in terms of characteristics you are thinking of your students, and what kind of environment is it possible for you to create at your institute? So while sitting at NITTTR Chandigarh, I do not know the kind of infrastructure facilities available at your institute. As per the subject demand, what kind of technology integration need to be there, what are the demands of your learning spaces. So take few minutes to note down that what are the changing characteristics of the student population you are able to observe over the past 4 or 5 years, and what kind of environment it is possible for you to create with the kind of infrastructure available at your institute, so that you can create experiential kind of learning environment for the student population. So this is an activity that is given to all of you. So I hope it is clear to all the members.